Hi guys, and welcome to our review of The Last of Us. I am Ninja Misty, and with me is...
Ninja Andrew, also known as The Last of Us.
He is not. So what we're going to do here, we have actually played through the game on hard mode and on normal mode. And we're going back through on survivor mode.
Which is the hardest mode that unlocks after you beat the game one time.
Some of us are being forced to do this. Just putting that out there.
I know, right? Sheesh, Ninja Misty.
I know. I had to twist his arm. But what we're going to do here, we're going to start it kind of at the... It's really where the game begins. There's kind of a prologue. We're not showing that to you because it is spoiler heavy. So we're going to kind of just jump into a little bit of the gameplay here. Kind of give you our opinion of the game now that we've played through it. We might even convince Ninja Andrew to give you his opinion of the multiplayer.
Oh gosh.
Buckle your seatbelts for that one.
Nice.
So I guess we can...
We'll hit resume.
We'll hit resume. You want to hit it on...
Put us right into...
Are we going to hit it on 1? Or have you already hit it?
3, 2, 1. It's The Last of Us.
Thank God. Seriously.
Yeah.
Checkpoint's still open.
We got a few hours left until curfew.
Better hurry up then.
Okay.
Okay, so this is sort of like where the game begins, where you can control Joel, who's basically like, I guess you could call him the main character or main protagonist of the storyline for the game. So,
Alright, so as we progress here, following Tess, you want to give us your thoughts on the game?
on the game, well, I think graphically everybody can see this looks really nice. Like, that's coming out of the legacy of Uncharted, which were the games that Naughty Dog made before this. And I think there are a lot of similarities to the gameplay itself. Not quite the climbing around, but a lot of the shooting aspects of Uncharted are very similar. Especially the aiming control and the cover fire kind of options. And then, I would say, like, the gameplay is fairly comparable to other stealth-style gameplay where you're going to be doing a lot of trying to sneak up behind enemies that are doing patrol patterns and get stealth kills on them. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Definitely. I mean, you know, you can choose how you want to play this game. You can go in guns blazing, or you can sneak around and live.
Yes. And to do that, you're given a range of weapons that you pick up throughout the game. And then there's also crafting items that you get to make by picking up crafting materials. And it's just playing the cutscene of me walking through the gate, so I'm just gonna, like, wait a second.
Attention. Checkpoint 5 is now closed until further notice. All civilians...
Okay, I'm just gonna get us inside the building here. and I think things will quiet down a little bit.
For sure. I think we're just a little bit out of sync because I'm in the building.
Okay, for sure. So basically, like, I'm going to use a health kit here to just wrap my leg. You can see it fills up my health in the bottom right corner of the screen.
Hey, Tess, you see that shit? I was there. Hey, how's the east tunnel looking?
It's clear. I just used it. No patrols. Where are you
Okay, so right now in the storyline, they're kind of like after somebody who stole some goods from them, so in this post-apocalyptic world, it's not something that they can let pass, so they're going to get their stuff back. I won't say too much more than that. I'm not going to go too much further ahead right at this second, just because I don't want to like chirp a whole bunch of stuff and have people talking over me. But basically, stealth stuff similar to like Deus Ex that they just did recently. Metal Gear Solid, Assassin's Creed, like there are similar aspects, although I would say that this game feels, while looking very good, isn't quite as expansive as some of the other things that are on offer out there, offering this very similar type of experience. It's very theatrical, like it feels like you're playing like in a TV series or a movie or something like that as you play, which is cool, but like it still has that very linear feeling of Uncharted and hasn't expanded very much beyond that, as well as that the gameplay doesn't really expand into any new territory. You're doing a lot of stuff that we've seen in a lot of other video games, and you're not really getting a whole bunch of options that are really all that new. There's some stuff that I can't really show right now, where he has like a look mode. Well, it's a listen mode, actually. You go into listen mode, you crouch, and you can like sort of see enemy outlines through walls and stuff, and that helps you to determine where they are and where to go and stealth assassinate them, which is always the best option if you can get as many down with stealth assassinations and then take them out with guns if they find you. Very similar to like a Metal Gear Solid kind of situation where if you screw up and you want to just keep going, it gives you that option. But what would you say about like, how do you feel about like the expansiveness of things like the weapon and crafting systems in the game?
Come on.
I like the ability to enhance my weapons, but honestly, I think when I think of crafting weapons, I kind of judge it against Dead Island now.
Sure.
And it just feels like you have more options in Dead Island.
Yeah, it's like you're given, I think, by the end of it, 3 pistols, 3 rifle-type weapons, a flamethrower. Those are like a few of your weapons, and then you get to make crafting stuff. And it's kind of like, what were you going to say?
One thing that I do like is being able to craft on the go, though.
Yes, without having to find a crafting table, even though you can find crafting tables to improve your weapons.
To improve your weapon, but to being able to make Molotovs, shivs, that kind of thing, I like being able to do that just on the fly.
Yes. I didn't like the concept of a breakable shiv.
No.
I didn't like basically one character in this game that you run into has a machete, and he's just hacking and slashing away at the enemies like there's no problem with it whatsoever. But Joel here, that you're controlling for the majority of the game, it's like he makes shivs, stabby weapons, out of like tape and broken scissor blades, and you have to find like 4 pieces of a broken scissor blade to make one shiv.
Which is really insane, because
Yeah.
really...
Where it's like, why can't this guy just have a knife, like, that he uses throughout the whole game? Wouldn't that be, like, much nicer
Well,
than
especially when
having
you're...
broken scissor blade shivs?
They give Ellie...
One of the other characters that you do get to control at some point.
But she has a knife, and hers doesn't break.
You know? And it's like, what, this guy, like, can't... Like, you could take a piece of scrap metal, and that's what one of the other characters does. He takes, like, a piece of scrap metal, turns it into a machete, and, like, Joel is stuck with his scissor blades, which just feels silly as you're playing through the game. So, I don't know. That's just one aspect that I had, like, a little bit of an issue with. Other stuff is, like, when you're going up against the enemies, like, I would say, like, the majority of enemies in this game ended up being human enemies.
Yes.
You know? Like, when this game was, like, advertised, it seemed like you were going to be fighting a lot of, like, crazy zombie creatures. But really, when it comes down to it, you're spending most of your time fighting, like, just gangs of guys with guns.
Military.
Yeah, either military or, like, gangs that are, like, living in the ruins of the cities and stuff like that as you're trying to get from point A to point B. And, like, it kind of feels like they misrepresented it a bit or just sold it as something that it really isn't. Like, it looks really great, but you don't really spend your time doing too much more than fighting, like, regular enemies, just like you fought in Uncharted. You know? There's some stuff here with, like, they told me, I'm out here looking for this ladder.
Okay.
So I'm looking around for that. But, like, that was one issue that I had with it. The other one is that, like, the gameplay itself, okay, you do have Molotovs, bombs, your guns, and stuff like that, and for the most part, you're trying to do stealth kills and then use your weapons to cover you as necessary. But, like, the sad thing is that the gameplay never progresses beyond doing anything other than that. Like, you're always just going to be fighting this next group of enemies, like, or, like, very rarely broken up by, hey, look for the ladder, or look for the plank to walk across this thing. But that's all you're doing. That's the entirety of the gameplay and the single-player side of the game. So it's just kind of like, for a game that's coming out after things like Assassin's Creed or Metal Gear Solid, it just feels like a lot of energy was put into making these areas look good, but, like, you can see how much we've gone through already. Like, how long does it take to make an area look like this? Sure, it looks good. This is the last time you're going to see it, these 10 seconds that we took to run through it. So, like, enjoy it for the amount of money that they spent to make it, but, like, really, you know, this is the majority of the gameplay. And here, this leads me to one of my other things. I just walked in the house here, and I was able to start looting some stuff. Looting in this game, it's kind of cheap because, okay, this is a bad example because it's a Firefly pendant, which are more rare. But, like, stuff will pop up with, like, a triangle icon from, like, halfway across the room. So there's very little work that you have to do and looking for items to survive, whereas I think the game should have been very much like having to go around and look at each little thing individually and be like, is this something that helps me? Like
Although,
I don't know.
But I'll stop you there and say that by the end of this game, I was sick of having to go
collect stuff.
and collect stuff. It was
but that's because of how much it cost from collecting stuff just to make something that you needed, you know? And also, okay, this leads me to one other thing, because it keeps telling me to toggle my flashlight, which is on R3, which is, okay, they wanted it to feel like you're clicking the button of the flashlight, but, like, for me, it's not on the button that I would want it on, and they don't allow you to change controls, and flashlight isn't the only button that I would reassign. The run function is on L2, which I also don't like at all. I'm heading down here into the spore hallway. The L2 run function, like, I can aim and shoot no problem with, like, the L1, R1 functions, but, like, listening on R2 and running on L2, I wish I could, like, flip that, but they really won't let you. So it's just, a lot of this game I spent feeling like the biggest issue I had was the controls. It just didn't feel right. Which leads me into... Oops. Whoop. Pulling down the house on top of me. But leads me into multiplayer. How do you feel about multiplayer?
Well, I think I've played a little more multiplayer than you have.
Yes.
I think that what I was expecting was something along the line, but this also goes back to what I was expecting out of the game. I thought there was going to be a lot more of the infected or, the zombie type characters. And so I was kind of gauging what the multiplayer would be similar to like the
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead zombie,
yeah,
kind of the horde mode where you would be on a team and you would be kind of like surviving against these waves of the infected.
And then maybe have an option for like a versus mode within that or something.
And what it turned into was it's just you're there shooting the opposing faction. And they kind of give you this backstory. Oh, you have your little kind of colony and you're
part of a clan and you have a faction that you're fighting.
Right, and you have
whatever.
This many people in your little camp that are well or that are sick, and there's just all these different kind of little build-up they give you with this backstory, but then when it comes down to it, you're just shooting guys just like you would be in Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever, and you're shooting them with really crappy guns.
Yeah.
And most of the time what I found is I was up against people who had obviously been playing it a little bit more, so they had some armor and they had guns where I could unload like a full clip. And I think they got like a hangnail and they could look at me and kind of aim in my direction, and I was dead. So it's really frustrating. I found it incredibly frustrating. What about you?
Well, basically, I have never been a fan of any multiplayer-style game that basically says that your gun isn't effective. So, like, if I shoot a guy with an entire clip out of an assault rifle and he doesn't die, I don't find games like that entertaining or worth playing, just because it's like, that's not realistic at all. You want to go and like watch some videos online of like what a bullet does, you know what I mean? It's like shooting an entire clip full of bullets at somebody, it's gonna like obliterate them, So it's just like, I don't like games with that unrealistic feeling. Now, the single-player side of this game is excellent. I would say, like, the guns feel like they do realistic amount of damage. Sure. You can upgrade your abilities with them. That feels really good. But, like, the multiplayer side of this game just feels fake and very unrealistic. And I think that sort of just turns me off of it and makes me question, like, why didn't you take some of this money from... like making these levels that you go through an area for 10 seconds and there's nothing even in there, but they spent like a lot of their budget making it, and take some of the money that they spent making this multiplayer, and why not just put all that money into the single player? Because the single player is really good, except for the controls and the fact that the gameplay is fairly one-dimensional. It's like, it does look really good. they do have some, like, driving storyline aspects, although that was one thing that Misty and I were talking about before we even came on to play, is that, like, this is I'm going to say what I feel. I feel that a lot of the storyline aspects were very, they felt gimmicky to me. It's like characters come in only so that they can be used as some sort of, like, you know, I don't know.
Plot device
For the storyline to, either for the storyline or for you to feel some emotional thing about it. And it's like, it kind of just, it makes the characters also feel a little bit one-dimensional in certain ways, because they're only there for their one aspect, and then that's it, you know? So I guess that sort of covers, like, how I feel about the game in general, and, like, some of the aspects here. I'm in this room passing the plank up to Tess. Whereabouts are you?
That's where I am.
Okay, do we want to pass it up and we'll, like, see what happens when we go out the door at the top?
Sure.
Okay. Because I think we're close to a cutscene or something or other. And we'll see how close we can get. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? You know what I mean? Like, how you felt about the game, how you would feel about, like, a sequel, you know?
Well, I'm interested to see what they do with the DLCs.
Yes.
I think the game, I mean, once you start playing it and you kind of get a feel for it, you see where it's going. There were a few twists that
you probably weren't expecting going into it.
that I wasn't totally expecting. A lot of it did feel kind of like the direction I thought it was going to go in.
Which, okay, just then say something to that, or, like, let me ask you something about that. Is it, like, is the storyline basically too much of what you would expect it to be, where it's just, like, you feel a little bit like you're just going through the motions waiting to get to the actual stuff of it?
I think there were certain parts, like I said, going in where I would have bet money that X, Y, or Z would happen. And I'm not going to say X, Y, or Z because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't
anybody else, right?
Played the game. But there were definitely some things that you saw coming, you know, a mile away with, you know, a siren on top of it. And you're like, okay, I know that this is going to happen somewhere in the storyline, and boom, it does.
It felt predictable, basically, which is a bit of a letdown in certain ways because you're expecting something really big from a story or a game on this capacity, you know?
But I think the thing is, you know, I'll stop enough to say that I enjoyed it. You know, there was...
Yes, I did enjoy playing through, like, it did have enough to it that I was like, okay, what happens next? Like,
I definitely think...
makes me curious.
I definitely think that it evoked emotion at certain points in the game. I think that the dialogue, the writing of the game was really good, especially coming off of playing Defiance, where the writing was abysmal.
I would say also the character acting in this is really well done. That would probably be like my biggest, like, kudos on the portrayals done for Joel and some of the other supporting characters. Like, they do look really good and they do feel like believable performances. Although I think that's one thing that's a little bit telling is that they still do feel like performances instead of feeling like really rawly real, but it's still good. It's still good. It's like watching a TV show or a movie or something.
I think that the graphics are amazing. I think that the level of detail adds a whole extra layer to the gameplay.
Intensity.
Absolutely. I like the fact that the NPCs that are with you actually do damage. I mean, they're definitely, you feel like somebody's there that has your back.
you just touched on one more thing that I wanted to touch on, which is that, okay, certain NPCs, you're right, they do help you out. I'm just waiting for this little interaction to pass. So certain NPCs really do help you out, like, certain characters will, like, blow away other zombies when they're on your side, like, helping you get it through your section. But, also, like, there are certain sections where it's like, this is basically an entire game that's dedicated around an escort mission. So you're having to escort another character through the game. And there were a lot of sections where I was going through where it was like the programming on that character I found very annoying, because it would be like you'd be hiding somewhere and that character would go and walk out and would alert the guards to your presence. Or that character would come up behind you and you'd try to move back into your hiding spot and they'd be blocking your way. And it's like some of those aspects where it's like, if the game is going to be built around that, then really like go in and design it so that like every interaction with enemies are really pre-programmed so that stuff like that isn't going to happen, because it would feel so much more realistic. You know what I mean? If it was like when you were trying to move and let's say you were bumping into that character, like he puts his hand out and like will touch that character, but he doesn't like, you know, push with them or push them out of the way kind of thing, like you would see in real life situation, I guess. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel, it felt, I don't know, very gamey. I don't know. So whereabouts are you now?
I'm going to stop right here before you go into the area where you're going to fight the gang members.
Okay.
I'm standing right outside of that gate. You have that one cutscene, you know, you walked through kind of the little shanty.
I just passed the cards to the guy. Should I keep going, or do we want to fight these guys and then we'll cut it there?
Sure.
We'll just show that little scene, even because I think it's, yeah, I'm outside of that gate. So let's walk in there and we'll do that. It's usually the kind of guys you're fighting for the majority of the game.
Our beef isn't with you. We just want Robin. You don't want to do this.
Turn the fuck around and leave now.
I'm not going anywhere without Robert.
Bitch, bash your skull unless you turn around and get your dumb ass out of here.
Fuck this.
Take cover!
You ready?
Yeah.
I'll cover you. Get the angle on me.
You know, I don't know if you can use listening mode on survivor mode. Have you tried that?
I've tried, but it hasn't let me, so I'm doing without. I guess that adds a whole new level of fun to the game, especially with the difficult enemies. Well, if this guy's just gonna sit here, I'm gonna try and pop on his face. Woo! He's still kicking. Is he gonna pop up again?
Nicely done, Texas.
How the hell did he get all these guys?
If Robert's good at one thing, it's writing blank checks.
It moved me with them because of auto aim. Let's see. Oh, come on. Sit down. Alright. Yarr. Did you get him?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so we want to cut it here?
Sure.
Alright, guys, so that was our review of The Last of Us. Hopefully that, like, told you enough of what you need to know, or what our opinion is, at least of the game, after having, like, we played through the entire thing. So this is coming from, like, having seen the entire game as well. So, I'd still say it's worth it to check out the single player storyline, and maybe you will like the multiplayer. I'm not a fan of that particular kind of style of multiplayer as well. So that's our review. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully there was something there that helped you. And join us again next time for more epic adventures on Dork Ninja Gaming.
Bye.